Good morning, good morning. We've started out already in a powerful way. How many of us are so excited to be here today? All right. You know, I must say that I have the distinct pleasure to moderate today's panel. I don't get an opportunity to moderate many times, so this is a distinct privilege for me. I'm here today with some very powerful leaders in our community, and we're going to go through that and have them introduce themselves. But before, just to make sure everyone knows which room they're in, we're in the Strategic Vision for New York City's Industrial Growth and Economic Development. While industries in New York City is unlikely to return to the mid-20th century, peak, ongoing rezoning efforts in industrial areas are creating new opportunities in construction, advancing manufacturing, and other high-demand sectors. This panel will focus on the city's role in shaping industrial policy, exploring how these changes can support workers, training providers, and employers. And who better to have to answer these questions than the panel that we have today. So, let's start with introductions, but let me introduce myself first because I think you guys would like to know who I am as a moderator. My name is Anthony Watson. I'm the executive director for an organization called Manhattan Education Opportunity Center. We provide services for adult learners around New York City, but particularly in Manhattan, serving individuals from the age of 18 to all the way up in a lot of different platforms. So once again, the work that we're talking about today is extremely important to really serving and training the individuals in our community to really be ready for these opportunities. So I'm not on a panel, so what I would like to do is I would like to have the panel introduce themselves, and we'll start with the majority leader, Farías.
Hi, everyone. Most of you probably already heard from me, but this morning at the breakfast, so thank you for being here for this panel as well. I'm Majority Leader Amanda Farías. I'm the council member. Thank you for that small applause. No, I'm just kidding. I'm also a comedian. I get to represent District 18 in the Southeast Bronx and those big neighborhoods, Westchester Square, Castle Hill, Parkchester, Soundview. And I get the honor and privilege of chairing the Committee on Economic Development in the New York City Council. And so I will pass it over.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. She's a comedian. I'm a singer. Not really. I am a commissioner, though. I'm Commissioner Dynishal Gross from the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Oh, more small applause. Thank you. SBS is here today because our work is to create equity of opportunity for New Yorkers, and our core strategies to do that are by supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs, supporting neighborhood development and the vibrancy of commercial corridors, connecting businesses to government contracting opportunities, the central strategy of which is our city's MWBE policy, but our largest division and an enormous part of our mission is workforce. So we run the city's public workforce system of general applicability for adults. We call it Workforce One, and we have some of our partners here with us in the room today. We have 18 Workforce One centers across the city, and that includes industrial and manufacturing specialized centers across the 5 boroughs. So I'm here today to focus on that aspect of our work, and I thank you to ETC for having me.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be here as well. My name is Younes. I'm the executive director of an organization called ITAC. We are part, thank you. We're part of the MEP, Manufacturing Extension Partnership. It's a nationwide group that basically works to assist manufacturers in becoming more competitive. We, ITAC, only work in New York City, the 5 boroughs, and that's plenty of work already. And it's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Great, great. Let's give another round for the panelists. So we're going to ask a series of questions, about 5 questions, and then what we'll do, we're going to leave some time towards the end and ask the audience. And of course, Most of you already know. You got your scan and you're ready to go, and I'll respond to those questions. So the first question will go to Majority Leader Farías. How can industrial rezoning efforts drive job creation and benefit diverse communities across New York City?
Thank you for that. I wrote myself a lot of notes and then decided this morning I have more thoughts. So I think industrial rezoning can be a really powerful tool for both economic revitalization and community empowerment. One of the ways that I've seen that in Council District 18 recently was through the Metro North redevelopment plan, where we completely rezoned an area that is part industrial, part residential, and that's really, those decisions of rezoning really were able to reflect the priorities of the local community. And that was incorporating affordable housing, improved transportation access, green spaces, the rezoning that fostered more inclusivity within the neighborhoods while simultaneously creating jobs, both short-term in the construction and the development of the area, but also long-term in industries like logistics, green energy, and manufacturing. I also already have spoken a little bit about, as the speaker mentioned too, the New York City Industrial Plan that was created, now is Local Law 172, that I spearheaded in the council, that allowed for industrial rezoning to be achieved and those jobs created on a citywide level through a comprehensive approach. I think what's important about this is zoning being the major component of this in goal setting was in conjunction with this plan, really looking at how the citywide will see its benefit and the people see its benefit, being able to prosper in every borough. I think what's coupled with this is not only improving accessibility to industrial sectors, employment, that is really important, that's the key factor here. It's also about protecting the jobs or expanding the jobs and the upward mobility that comes within them. So how we need to look at is how do we invest in these sectors that are directly investing in the people? And I think another core component that a lot of us are thinking about is, while we're looking at a holistic every 8-year approach at the industrial sector and moving it towards driving job creation, we also can't forget about the components like adding bike lanes, improving street repaving, protecting waterfront where some of these are, improving the electrical grid while we're looking at EVA tolls or decarbonization efforts throughout our communities. Really improving the infrastructure is making the areas more accessible to workers and ensuring that people in some of these underserved communities can commute more easily, find it more accessible to get there, and really being able to create new safety around some of these job sites. Then I think the last part is finding the really great partners that are able to take their own investments like SBS and ITAC and go directly into the local commercial corridor and the people. Personally, I mean, I've done walkthroughs with the commissioner, and I have ITAC working both in my IBZ and along the commercial corridor to help improve people's accessibility to the local community. How do we invite more people in, and how do we improve those employers individually to make sure that they have sustainable, long-standing efforts to stay within the community?
Thank you very much. Commissioner, would you like to also respond?
Absolutely, yes. So we are working now in the community of Younes on recruitment for several of our industrial and manufacturing training programs. And the reason we have a focus in Younes, although we of course recruit citywide, is because of the rezoning that happened in that area. So it was a neighborhood rezoning. The IBZ itself was not rezoned, but we know the rezoning is going to impact the ability of industrial and manufacturing businesses to continue operating in space where they have operated for some time. And so each rezoning effort includes multiple opportunities for community engagement and input. And that community engagement and input is then reflected in a points of agreement document. And that points of agreement document is also usually linked to city agency funding to deliver on the services and programs and commitments that are part of the points of agreement. And so there was such a points of agreement negotiated in Younes, and it required SBS to do multiple things. And so in the workforce area, we are doing focused recruitment of residents, especially residents of the NYCHA communities in Younes, to increase their awareness and ability to enroll in industrial and manufacturing training programs. So we have an on-the-ground partner who's working in conjunction with the residents associations and other, neighborhood-based community nonprofits to spread the word about all of those programs and maximize enrollment. In fact, I think when I was appointed acting commissioner in July, my first activity on the ground was one of our mobile outreach unit events in Younes. We did it in partnership with a soup kitchen, Chips, which owns its space and is a very stable nonprofit in the district and is serving both long-term residents and residents of the local migrant shelter, to increase awareness of those programs. So as they gain their work authorization, they can also, enroll in these programs. And that work, that focused work, monthly visits by SBS and a real deep dive investment in on-the-ground outreach is possible because of the rezoning commitments and the budget that accompanied them. Another way that I think rezoning policy can benefit diverse communities is reflected in Councilmember Farías' comment about the location of industrial jobs on transit corridors and in commercial corridors that are part of neighborhoods. Commute is a big part of job quality, and job quality, is important to employee retention. Turnover creates cost for businesses, and especially in industries where the length of time and investment for employee training is significant, the impacts of that turnover can be significant. So we're really excited that City of Yes, for economic opportunity, increased opportunities for clean commercial manufacturing clean manufacturing to happen on commercial corridors citywide. It increases job quality for the individuals who are part of those jobs to be centrally located in neighborhoods and near transit corridors. We love our IBZs, but earlier this year I visited BAT, where we have one of our industrial workforce centers, and I did an interview with Lee Spring, one of the manufacturing employers who's part of our pre-apprenticeship program on advanced manufacturing. Amazing B2B company. They provide springs from the size, like in this fountain, in this pen, to industrial size springs being used in huge transportation projects. But unless you have reason to be at BAT, you're not going to know that those jobs exist, or you happen to know someone who works at Lee Spring. In the same way, the perfect employee for Lee Spring might be in Gowanus houses, right? And that employee could be incredibly stable because they have high housing security as a NYCHA resident, and they are a walk from that location. But there's no visibility of that employer and those job seekers who could be a perfect match. And so part of what we're doing through outreach and promoting these programs is creating that availability, but the opportunity for clean manufacturing businesses to locate on commercial corridors is also going to just increase the awareness of the industrial sector and advanced manufacturing, clean manufacturing, as opportunities for New Yorkers who can grow, stabilize their families through onboarding to work in those sectors.
Thank you very, very much. This powerful group, didn't I say this is a powerful group? Give her a round of applause for that. All right. So this question is kind of similar to the first, but it really talks a little bit about what role do training providers and employers play in ensuring a skilled workforce for advanced manufacturing and construction? And I'm going to ask Executive Director Kinda to lead that question.
Thank you. So first of all, I think it's important to take a step back and talk about manufacturing in general and why it's so important. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank the Majority Leader and the Commissioner for caring so much about manufacturing and for supporting efforts around manufacturing in New York City. But manufacturing at a high level in the US, it's 11% of the GDP. It employs 12 million people. We, the US, are the second largest manufacturer in the world. We are responsible for 17% of the output. And so, it's a very important sector for us in general. And when you look at the jobs, they're good jobs. They provide good salaries, good benefits. In fact, 36% of engineers in the US work or are affiliated with manufacturing. So this is just to set the stage about how important manufacturing is in general. In New York City, we have a couple of thousand manufacturers. They employ between 40 and 50,000 employees. But it's important to mention that they tend to be very small manufacturers. So, and the reason why I'm saying this is that it has obviously consequences on the training that these employers need and the workers that they're looking for. So in New York City, I want to say 85% are the latest statistics. 85% of manufacturers have under 10 employees, and the median is 3. And it's the same numbers for the revenues. 85% make under $1 million a year, and the median is around 200,000. So very small companies, very good companies, they tend to be, I mean, the largest sectors are fabricated metals, apparel, food, printing, electronics, jewelry, you know, and a lot of these jobs, I mean, they're across the 5 boroughs. A lot of them are in Brooklyn and Queens also in particular, but also, you know, we're seeing a lot in the Bronx now, really, you know, spread throughout the city. But again, you know, it's important to say that these guys, these employers tend to be small employers. When you look at the jobs that they're trying to fill, it's really all sorts of jobs, whether it's entry level, but more and more it's higher skilled jobs. And it's an issue because there aren't that many training programs. And, you know, across the US, when it's larger companies, usually companies can provide that training. Here in New York City, they also provide training in-house. In fact, the majority of our companies train their own employees, and it's at all levels. But they need all the help they can get. Currently, when you look at the numbers across the US, again, 5 out of 10 jobs are not getting filled, and the numbers are not getting better. Everybody always references the Deloitte research report, which they keep updating every year. And the numbers are that, you know, the growth in manufacturing, because thanks to advanced manufacturing, it's going to create 1.5 million new jobs in the next couple of years. And then you have all the retirements, and that's 2.5 million. So overall, it's 4 million jobs that we're looking at, and only half of those jobs are going to get filled because of a skills gap. So it represents really a huge opportunity. And going back to us in New York, it's at all levels, again, entry level, but also more sophisticated jobs requiring higher levels of skills. So first-line supervisors, welders, and also keep in mind that with advanced manufacturing and all the the equipment getting connected now, you need people to analyze that data. So we're looking at engineers, at data scientists, at logisticians. So it's creating a lot of opportunities. I feel like I need to pause a little bit. We'll see if there are any questions. But again, I will answer your question, Anthony, saying that a lot of the training is happening in-house, but that employers really are, the first complaint that we get when we speak to our manufacturers here in New York City is that we cannot find enough employees. And so it's a matter of, hiring them, but also retaining them. Again, those are good jobs. There's a huge potential. Between now and 2033, we're looking at about 2 million jobs all across the US.
Thank you. So it sounds like there's lots of opportunities that's on the horizon. We have to kind of look out for it. Commissioner Gross, thank you for that response. Commissioner Gross, would you like to add anything to that question?
Yes, I'd love to build on that. I love Kinda's point that manufacturing businesses tend to be very small businesses, and we specialize at SBS in serving small businesses, and it's kind of a a specialized audience to reach. And one reason why is that, some small business owners are not just wearing many hats, they're wearing every hat, and they're dealing with financing, and they're figuring out how to adapt to changing compliance regulations and operate successfully in a challenging economy, supply chain, in a challenging city. And so for SBS, in our workforce programming, we never want to build a bridge to nowhere for the job seekers that are coming into our systems. We have long-term goals as a city for creating jobs in the green economy and adapting civil service jobs, but in Workforce One, our hard metric every year is hires. How many folks are actually getting placed in jobs? And in our training programs, we also want to know that we're training New Yorkers for jobs that exist. And that means we need to be working in partnership with employers from the inception and planning of these programs so that we can then inform the training and work to develop relationships with training providers who can provide the in-demand skills. We also need another thing that Kenda mentioned is that many of these employers do training on their own because the work is so specialized where they can afford to do so. And we have built that into our apprenticeship program. So for example, the advanced manufacturing program that's happening right now, we're delivering in partnership with Makerspace as a training provider. We're doing it at the facility at the Brooklyn Army Terminal, and it's EDC support that has helped equip Makerspace with the equipment on which to do the classroom portion of the training. I think it's about 16 weeks of training of kind of intake and then classroom training for the cohort. But then we want those folks to get, almost a year of on-the-job training with the employer partners. And so that requires us to work on building those relationships to allow for that on-the-job training portion, early, during the procurement process. And so having those employer relationships is critical for us, and it's also challenging. The way that we're managing it is through the industry partnerships that are managed by our Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce Development, and also being in conversation with industry groups and partners like ITAC who can help keep us informed of where those needs lie and build those relationships to inform the training and then the on-the-job training portions of the training programs, as well as eventual hiring by those employers.
Great, thank you. I know that we started a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to be mindful of the time so we can get you guys to your next session, but I know we have 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we save some time for Q&As. So great conversations happening. Majority Leader, would you like to add anything to that one?
I'll be super brief. I just think I want to double everything that was already said. I think employers and government really need to be mindful of where the investments are going. New York City is looking at our training centers that offer things like green construction certifications or advanced manufacturing tech courses, but those have to be in sync with the demands of the industry, because really it's about retention of workers and how we are making it more available for them to be able to move upward mobility, both economically but within the sectors themselves. I think a key component I've been looking at and working with state partners, hopefully in this next year, is looking at how do we enhance accessibility to people that English is not their first language. And so OSHA training is one of the ones that I've been looking at, of credentialing folks or having instructors that are OSHA certified trainers in the multitude of languages that we have already needing to train within. That helps us with expanding the people that have access to these trainings, ensuring that they also have instructors where they can upwardly move. I think one of the things that we're not necessarily looking at holistically at this given moment, and I'm hoping we really expand on and continue to look at, is being mindful of the risks of the need for us to respond to get more people into sectors, more people into workforces by de-skilling or de-credentialing. Like, I think sometimes we view a lot of criteria or a lot of credentials or a lot of hours where people have to be trained in a certain sector as an obstruction of them getting in. But realistically, what we're hearing from Kinda and what we know in industries is the more we de-skill or de-credential, the larger the gap is going to be for people to continue to move upward in each of these industries. And so things like what we need to be focused on is more accessibility to help people move in, not the de-skilling and de-credentialing that I think we are looking at in certain areas in like Department of Buildings right now, where we're looking at how do we reduce the hours to get more people, when realistically we need to look as a government and I think folks in the job training area, how do we equip people to retain those people within the trainings for longer amount of times to meet the requirements that they need to meet, so we know we're keeping those folks employed throughout the entire time where they can upwardly move. That is something I want us to be mindful of, something I'm mindful of in our conversations and how we continue to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anthony, would you mind if
Yes,
I
please.
built on that? Because
Please.
I'm realizing I'm in a room full of people I should talk to about work that we need to move. SBS has a program that I love that is undersubscribed, and I would love to see more interest from employers in enrolling. It's called our Customized Training Program, and it really is focused on the exact point that Majority Leader Farías just made. And it relates also to the risk of turnover and the importance of retention that I previously touched on. So what this program does, we seek employers who want to upskill their employees by providing a training that may be a cost that the company cannot meet independently. And in exchange for public subsidy to cover the cost of that training, they are willing to commit to wage enhancements for the employees that create the training. And I think this is a great model because it really provides, it's a clear representation that the employer is concerned about growth and understands that the connection that exists between the growth of the skills and credentials of the employers and their business are intertwined, and it's government committing to help an employer meet those costs, understanding that the benefits really quickly are going to roll down to the individual employees. So this is a fabulous resource that we have. We support it with city tax levy dollars, and we are very interested in having additional manufacturing and industrial employers take advantage of this resource. So if you're aware of businesses in the sector that can benefit from the customized training program, all of these resources can be accessed, of course, on the SBS website. And we also have a hotline, 888-SBS for NYC. We'd be happy to connect you to the program teams.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to ask the next question of Kinda. How can workforce development initiatives support industrial growth in New York City?
So I'm going to go back to what employers are looking for. They're having the hardest time finding employees, all sorts of employees. The move to higher skills has already happened. The statistics show that, for instance, in the past 5 years, there's been a 75% increase in simulation and simulation software skills. For production, for testing, things like that. And it's only going to increase in the next couple of years. We're going to need, as we were saying before, people, machinists, welders, people that are, that have skills in general. I think that the workforce programs, the Apprentice NYC program that you referenced is excellent. And those programs in general, I would say, speaking to employers all day long, I know that the less prescriptive they are, the better it is. Employers are scared of, not because they don't want to treat their employees well, but they don't want to commit to too much, Don't tell them for the next, 10 years you're going to have to agree to salary increases and certifications, things like that. What they really want is people who know how to do the job. And the reason why these programs are super important is that they cover the basics. And then for everything that has to be learned on the job, all these companies, even the very small ones that we work with, have shadowing programs where you just, get trained on the job. I would also say that, generally speaking, the skills that are required are a mix of manufacturing skills, digital skills, but also soft skills. And Commissioner, I think you spoke about Lee Spring earlier, and Al Mangels is on our board and always says those soft skills are so important, just being, wanting to learn how to do something new, like the flexibility and the willingness to adapt and to learn new things is at the top of many people's lists. So I think that's very important, trying to think about what else I would add. I think employers in general, they're trying to mitigate the gap in skills for now by doing training in-house, as I was saying, by hiring as much as possible. Hiring, training, offering flexibility. A lot of the workers want more flexibility, and we were talking about that. And the quality of life, they want to basically have flexible shifts. They want to be able to split shifts or change shifts with others. That is super important and very important for everyone, but also especially even more important now with women, that are more and more present in manufacturing. They're doing that, they're doing rotation, on-the-job rotation, so that people can learn other parts of the job as opposed to only what they're used to doing. So that's been part of it. Overtime is another way that employers are mitigating the shortage, and outsourcing, obviously. So I would say, I would leave it at that. I think that, programs and employers, employers are doing a lot, to mitigate the skills shortage. And these programs, the apprenticeship programs, are welcome as long as they're not too prescriptive.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We have two more questions, and I'm going to ask, does anyone want to respond to question 3 again, or we can move?
No,
okay.
that was perfect.
This is great. It's so much information in such a short period of time and trying to move through it. So definitely, I'm going to get to the questions that are being asked from the audience. But this question is, what are the key challenges to ensuring industrial policies align with equitable economic opportunities? And I would love for the majority leader to.
Sure, I'll be brief too, because I feel like folks can add into this. I do think when I saw this question, I immediately thought of my district and how we are a transit desert, and really there's a disconnect between where the jobs are and how accessible they are to the local workforce. And so that challenge alone prevents people from entering into workplace opportunities and careers that really would be otherwise suited for them, as we've heard already here today. I do think environmental justice is a critical factor. Really, historical inequities in land use have left many industrial zones in underserved communities, leading to environmental degradation, health issues, pollution-related health issues. A reality that I know, and folks in this room probably know all too well in the Bronx. There's a reason why we're known as Asthma Alley, and really looking at how we can be able to respond to those issues is just something that we have to be focused on when we're looking at equitable economic opportunity. So, I just recently really have evaluated all of my policies and where I stand on issues, and I'm realizing I'm really a leader in decarbonization. And I think that's because of where I grew up, but also what I care most about. And I think particularly around a lot of oversight in electrification sector in New York City right now, we're ranging from micro-mobility of cars to helicopters, really making sure that the growth of these industries doesn't come at the cost of local communities' health and well-being is super essential. And then I think the last point I'll make is the policies have to include worker protections, fair wages, support for unionization. I initially wanted to talk more deeply about that, but Kinza made me think about women in all of these industries, and when we're talking about equity, how sometimes the over-regulation of an industry where we think we're protecting a subset of folks to ensure that there's equity kind of creates inequity and flexibility. One of my first jobs, you'll see it on the first prompt we had, it'll be Jimmy Jazz retail worker. That's what my first job was. But the local government, the municipality, we've done so much work around trying to protect workers, on making sure they get their schedules ahead of time, they're able to ensure that they're paid overtime, that they're able to use their time, et cetera. All of these things to make sure that where there are abuses in the workforce, that we are protecting workers, and that's our main function and what we should be doing. But we also have to look at certain sectors where that flexibility is what attracts people to those spaces. When I was in retail, or when I was a server and a bartender, it was because I was able to go to school full-time by day, do my internship in the early evening, and then go make money to keep myself in school at night and on the weekends. And we have to work in conjunction, all of us, and both employers in the sector, but also government and advocates need to find the best way that we can ensure we're looking at workforces in an equitable way, but also to ensure that there's upward economic mobility for people that desire and need the flexibility to either go to school, take care of their elderly parent or their child, or really just the ability to move up in a sector that they're interested in working in.
Great.
I'll just add one thing, absolutely, to everything you said. Flexibility keeps getting cited again and again by employees as a reason why they want to work for a certain company or why they want to stay with a certain company. And in fact, it has been documented that employees are 3 times as likely to stay, and that's a big deal for employers because it's very costly to go and, just in terms of time, money, and everything, to go recruit new people and train them. But they're 3 times as likely to stay for a year and more if they feel like they're learning skills that could help them later on in life. So flexibility and upskilling are very valued by employees.
Great. Would you like to add anything, Commissioner?
I'll add just a bit. I think it's interesting, as someone whose work is, flows from policy, right, made at every level, to see how policy discussions kind of happen in the news and in the public discourse. And I feel like conversations around industrial policy often have like these hot button issues that emerge, and they don't always align with community interest in economic development or in equity. So for example, I was fascinated in City of Yes for economic opportunity, that the expansion of permission for certain types of home-based businesses, it became such a hot button issue. And there was a lot of passion and publicity, articles and kind of efforts. And I feel like those focuses within a complex set of policy changes are often strategic choices, right, for folks who may not, that they may not even be their predominant issue, but they have an interest in defeating the policy or in shifting it. And so I think it behooves us, as folks who are interested in equitable economic development and in this sector, to disentangle those issues in the discourse and help point community members toward the components of these complex proposals that are actually important to their futures, to their families' budgets, and away from some of those hot button issues. It's a constant challenge, right? I think in a city also where everything is always changing, there's information overload, and journalism is even, right, in flux. How we focus folks on the issues that are really most critically important to them. I will take this opportunity just to highlight one effort SBS has taken the lead of this year. In early 2024, City Hall began a sprint that we called Jobs NYC. And the goal of Jobs NYC was really to address high unemployment disparities that existed in certain zip codes around the city. So we chose the zip code with the highest unemployment disparities for New Yorkers of color in each borough and developed a series of intervention strategies to try and address those unemployment disparities. One of the pillars of Jobs NYC, it's not the whole thing, has been monthly hiring halls in those communities. So we take a lot of pride in our system, we invest a lot to operate our Workforce One centers, but we realize that we can't always expect New Yorkers who have significant to walk in to those centers. Sometimes we need to take the show on the road and reach them where they are. And so in Jobs NYC, we are providing hiring events in community settings in these highest unemployment zip codes. The MEOC was one, uptown, because Harlem is one of the zip codes. And the next jobs fair will be on December 12th, and we're holding it at the Polo Grounds in NYCHA. And there you will see a mix of the types of employers who have raised their hand to say we want to hire from our public workforce system, and it absolutely includes manufacturing, industrial, and transportation employers. So I hope you'll help us uplift that initiative. You can find information about all of these hiring events on our Jobs NYC website, which is jobs.nyc.gov, and it's a place where both job seekers and employers can learn about all of these resources and the events and let us know about what their hiring needs and training needs are.
Great, thank you, thank you. I'm going to move to the last question, and then I'm going to go to the audience, and this question is for our majority leader. What factors could shape future investments in manufacturing and economic growth?
Thank you. I have a lot of thoughts in this area, but I will not talk about each of them. 2 pages of thoughts. But I think the key factors that I have been looking at are technology, sustainability, workforce readiness, supply chain resilience, public policy, equity initiatives, and global trends. Those are all critical, all 15 of them. Those are all critical in reshaping the future of manufacturing and economic growth in our city and in our nation. I think by staying ahead of the trends as much as we can and positioning ourselves in New York City as leaders in these areas, both domestically and on a global scale, we're able to ensure long-term economic vitality and inclusive growth for all New Yorkers. One of the things that I just want to tap on is the technological advancements and automation. I feel a lot of us are in this area where we're looking at rapid pace of innovation, particularly in automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, or AI, and what I think everyone assumes it to be and what it actually is reshaping the manufacturing landscape exponentially. Future investments, I think, will likely focus on the technologies that enhance productivity and efficiency, and it's really where I believe we need to take a key focus in on. And I think the larger conversation that I am continually trying to have with folks is it's not about replacing workers, it's about the optimization of workers in the workplace. That's something as easy as incorporating a ChatGPT into helping automate or creating an algorithmic learning system that helps evaluate applications faster for people to review. There's a multitude of ways that we can incorporate that, and I really do think future investments in this area, particularly for manufacturing, will encourage the economic growth. And I think additionally, supply chain resilience and public policy and government incentives are how we're going to bring back industries post-pandemic, post even the slow progression upward in our economy nationally and in New York City, are where we need to make deep pocketed investments for companies to stay within our communities and for us to see some larger growth. So I'll end there, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about each of those points after this.
All right, before I go to the questions, anyone would like to add on the panel?
Yes to everything that was just said, all 2 pages. But I would say also, I fully agree on automation. Most of our manufacturers have embraced automation. They have to, anyway, to be competitive. They have no choice. It's usually been automation that has a tangible return on investment, meaning like automation tools like CNC or CAD, computer-aided manufacturing as well. Anything that has a tangible return on investment. Generally speaking, they're looking at the benefits for them, so productivity, precision, speed, and that's why they have to embrace those new technologies. I will say that the city a couple of years ago had this fabulous program. It was limited, but where basically ITAC worked with the city to subsidize the cost of equipment for manufacturers, and the tangible results of that were just so amazing, in terms of jobs created, in terms of productivity, cost savings, increased sales, you name it. It's been difficult, generally speaking. We've spoken to a number of funders about doing this again. Generally speaking, the response is like that funders prefer, helping with consulting rather than equipment to a private company, but equipment does help the company be more competitive. It does help the company train their employees, and, it helps them retain jobs and recruit more. And I would agree that automation, I think that it will get rid of certain jobs. Usually they are the more redundant, boring ones, but it also makes way to a whole, to a significant number of new jobs. And the good thing with manufacturing is that you're not, the incumbent workers or the new workers, again, as long as they want to adapt and learn, you're not looking necessarily, like it's not one of those industries where you necessarily need a postdoc, to do well. As long as you are motivated and ready to learn, you can just climb up the ranks. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, and the last one for me, is that manufacturing still doesn't have the best of reputations, even though it has changed significantly in the past couple of years and decades, honestly. And so I think when we talk about workforce development, we need to make an effort at an early age and train students, let them know that these are good jobs, that, they're gonna require creative thinking, they're gonna require agility, they're gonna be, just generally speaking, inspired by these jobs. And I think it's something that we really need to do at an early age. I would even say middle school. I know some efforts are, stop, okay.
Great.
Can I add, I just want to add one
Yes.
point. I think for those that were there at the breakfast, this goes back to my morning point of local government needing the accountability factor on creating policies or investing in continuing policies that go beyond our term limits. This really is about, we're looking at an industry, we're looking at sector growth, we're hoping to change the dynamic for workers or for the industrial sector, jobs and employers. It has to take a multi-pronged, multi-year, multi-decade even plan of investments, right? And then just a point on the AI and the automation, this is the way that we can showcase our abilities to scale production, improve efficiency, reduce costs, and really for employers and even for people that want to work for those employers, reducing the carbon footprint. So there's a lot of great components in this, and I'm hoping that with all of your help, we can keep me and the rest of government accountable and find ways to keep scaling this. Thank you for the
Great.
additional moment.
So I'm going to stand up because I can't turn around and look at the questions at the same time. So we're going to take, I guess, 3 questions from the audience. Let's see if we can respond with 1 minute or less, and you guys will leave it open for that. Because I know some of you can't see the bottom question, that's the first question I'll ask, right? So how are you working with K through 16 to facilitate early career pathways for the industrial sector? How are you working with K? Who would like to take that question? Or
I guess it kind of has to be me in SBS. K through 16, what a great question. K through about 5, we're not really working with young people, and they're, at least from what I can remember off the top of my head, and I barely had my first cup of coffee. So I can look deeply into it, but I don't think our career and technical education focus is mostly in high school. It does get incorporated into junior high, which is usually 5th through 8th grade, in different institutions and in different ways throughout the curriculum. We're introducing, for example, hydroponic labs at the 4th and 5th grade levels. Does that directly connect to workforce training and getting them into a CTE school? I would say for the most part, no. But again, I do think it goes back to how are we envisioning our investments long-term in this sector, or just in job training in the trades, and how do we have to readapt, not only looking at job training and credentialing for high schoolers and adults, but also looking at how do we readapt within the DOE our curriculums to start incorporating the idea of what it is to be that worker or in that industry as early as possible. And I think these are ongoing conversations that at least I have had now, and wrapping up my 3rd year in the council, that I know at some point we will be incorporating it, and hopefully K through 16 and beyond.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who posed that question, but I want to direct you to our Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce Development. Many representatives from that team are in the audience today, and part of the work of that office is to really create a single door for insight and industry connections across the workforce populations and workforce systems of the city. So they put out a report about a year ago on youth workforce, and I believe they're coming up on the 1-year anniversary and some refresh of that data. For SBS's part, we have a West Farm Center in the Bronx that is focused on young people, but it's mostly an out-of-school, out-of-work population, age 16 to 24. But generally, the Office of Talent and Workforce Development is working closely with the Department of Education, and their report and their updated report will be a source of insight into that work. One program that I'm aware of that I think is amazing connects students from high schools that have a STEM focus with career training at the Brooklyn Navy Yard that actually results in certifications, and the decision of what school those students choose to attend. For example, Medgar Evers Prep in Brooklyn is actually, I think, a 6th through 12th grade school. So at the 6th grade, at 5th grade, they're making the decision about what school to attend that's going to determine whether or not they have a connection to a program like that at the end of their high school career. So there are, advising decisions, school selection decisions that really need to happen in the elementary years to set students up for access to some of the most innovative programming, and that youth workforce report is a great place to learn more about them.
Okay, great. So we're at the conclusion of our panel discussion, but I do want to just give the opportunity for the panelists to, in 30 seconds or less, to just give any last thoughts, because I think when you're in the room with such powerful people who are doing such impactful work in our community and for our community, I think we have to give an opportunity at least to, say one last parting word to the audience. And of course, people will be here towards the conference. So you'll also get to answer questions. The questions that's up on the screen, we will try to get them responded to thereafter the conference, okay? So please, who would like to go?
My only pitch is I'm constantly taking legislative ideas and new initiative ideas, and if any of you have them, I'm open to hearing them. Hopefully we'll have 4 more years in the council after 2025, and I'm looking, for ways to collaborate and work together. So please reach out and let's talk about that.
I want to thank the audience for their attention, and I also want to thank Councilmember Farías for her leadership in this issue and what you thought was a long list of factors that are going to shape future investment. I think the industrial plan is at the top of it, and you've really taken your own charge to create insights for the city that are going to guide us, not just something brand new for this time once it's released in 2025, but the requirement that it be updated every 8 years, so far into the future, I think is an amazing insight and policy innovation, and you should be really proud.
I am, thank you. Industrial is sexy.
Yes, respond to the survey. It's for everyone. So the survey is open right now, and we hope that you'll contribute your insights to the survey that will lead to the development of the plan. Thank you.
Just a few words to agree with everything that was said before, and also, give my gratitude to Majority Leader Farías, because really, it's her leadership has been impressive. Please keep talking about manufacturing. I would urge you all to go visit manufacturers. They're actually very impressive. They're very strong business people. It's not easy to be a manufacturer in New York City, and you tend to learn a lot by just visiting them. And they're usually very happy to have people over. So if you are interested in learning more, please come to any of us after this panel. Thank you.
Great. Let's give them a round of applause. It has been a pleasure moderating this panel. I'm very humbled by the experience, and thank you for these leaders, and thank you guys. Have a great day.